Oh, hi.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Dan?
Okay. Come in.
This your wife?
Yes, it is.
Hi, Ruth.
Hi.
Glad to meet you.
We've met before
Yes.
in another life.
Possibly. You never know. I understand that you were a professional photographer for many years.
Yes, I went to the
Wow.
Vogue School of Photography in Chicago. That's where I.
And this is when you were a cowboy on the range, right?
Yes.
And you're a cat lover.
Yep.
This is me as a sheriff. When I went there, I just wanted to learn how to take better pictures because I had already had the camera. I was taking
Yeah.
pictures. But they insisted on making a photographer
this?
out of me. As you can see, I was very heavily decorated.
Yes.
The man says to me,
Pretty good.
"Boy, do you see the chair?" I said, "Yes, sir." "Now you sit down in the chair and sit for an hour and forget everything that you have learned. And then maybe we'll make a photographer out of you." This one over there is when Marina del Rey meets Copenhagen.
Oh, yeah. And these are all, I noticed that there's a lot on the water. You had a boat?
Yes. This is us racing. We are the number 21.
That's an accomplishment that not many people have. Dan beat 5 yacht clubs down in San Diego.
And this is the last king of Poland.
We had that. The last king of Poland, huh? This other stuff is young.
This is my bamboo forest. I don't know where the tiger went today, but
It's gone. These are big ones.
not bad, huh?
Yeah.
Sit down and talk to the trees.
They talk back?
No, I talk to the trees, but they don't listen to me.
They don't.
No, I talk to the trees in vain.
Any advice for anybody about life in general?
Well, just try to stay out of trouble.
Sometimes trouble finds you, though.
Yes, that's very truth. I think it's your destiny. I think that your destiny is laid out for you, and you just can't dodge it. The first tattoos that they put in were on the Russian prisoners of war, and they were tattooed here to the chest.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's the sun. And it's on this side. I thought they were on that side.
Jews.
Oh, Jews on that side, non-Jew on this side.
Yeah. I was born in Warsaw. At that time, my father was a member of the Polish parliament, so we lived in Warsaw. When I was 1 year old, my father wanted to buy a property for me, and we bought a estate that used to belong to Prince Sopiecha once upon a time. The property was quite expensive, and it had a lot of land, and it had a lot of forests.
Very nice. Did you go to school or did you?
I had a private tutor until I was 11.
Uh-huh.
When I was 11, I was then sent to school back in Warsaw, probably one of the best schools in Poland. Very high standard
Yeah.
of learning.
How long did you stay there?
Until the war broke out. When the war broke out, in fact, when the war broke out of September the 1st, 1939. Now, normally, that's the beginning of a school year,
Right.
September 1st. However, the school was postponed by 1 week because of the uncertainty of the situation. And I was elated. I mean, 1 week more of vacation were great,
yeah, sure.
right? I had my horse Marta, and we used to ride all the time with her. And on the 17th day of the war, the Russians come in from.
So
the
you
other
were on
side.
the Russian side,
Yes,
and then half of Poland was on, the other half was on the German side.
yes.
And there was
Yes.
kind of a debarkation
Yes.
line.
Yes, and my father was arrested and either executed in the prison or was sent to Siberia to the Gulag, which was the same thing. With the NKVD, there was no such a thing as visiting somebody. You know,
No.
you were my father was an enemy of the people, and what they call Polish pan krwawa pizza means Polish lord, blood drinking.
But the Russians took over your other estate
Oh
completely?
yes, definitely, everything.
What about your horses?
The horses were taken to the Russian army, to the Cossacks. We crossed the border one night, and we came back to Warsaw. The situation of food was very bad in Warsaw, so it was decided that I will stay with my uncle, who had a villa just outside suburban Warsaw in Józefów. There I was staying because the situation was food-wise much better. It was close to the country. You had to go to the farmers to buy food all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Because the rations that were just not sufficient to survive. Then on April 21st, 41, I was just getting ready to go to school, and there was a knock on the door. I looked out, the yard was full of SS, you know, and there was a knock, there was a lieutenant. When I opened the door, there was a SS lieutenant, Untersturmführer, and he looked at me, he says, "Wie alt bist du? How old are you?" I said, 15. Holen Sie Ihre Schuhe. I still didn't have my shoes on. He says, "Go and get your shoes." I put my shoes on, and they took me away and took my uncle away too. From there we went to the Gestapo headquarters at Schucha Allee in Warsaw for interrogation. I was brought into the room. There was one man sitting at the desk writing something, and another one standing there in civilian clothes, but they were Gestapo people. So I said quietly, "Guten Tag," and no answer. Then after about 1 minute, he stops writing, looks at me, he says, "Don't you know that you should have said good day when you come into the room?" And bow, you know, on their face. Then the interrogation started. "Do you know this one? And do you know that one? You know where this one is? Or you know where that one is?" I said, "No, I didn't know any of those people." All of a sudden, they decided I needed a little encouragement to talk. So they took me to the next room, and there were two goons there, Gestapo goons, and they start working me over, you know, beating me up and this and that, and decided to stuff me up with the sawdust. You know.
Stuff you up with sawdust?
Yeah.
How's that?
Well, through the mouth.
Oh,
So they stuffed me. I was just, you know, passing out, close to death. And then all of a sudden there was a knock on the door, and another man came in from the other room next door, and they needed help because they were interviewing there somebody else, and he was giving them problems, you know. I never know who that man was. I never saw him or anything. I only heard his screams, you know.
oh, jeez.
So they needed help, and the two left me and went back over there to help him. I guess they gave up on me. Says,
You don't know anything.
you know,
You're just a kid.
dumb cop.
Yeah.
Dumb. There was an incident that I remember. Somebody was going to be punished for something. I don't know. He was in another cell, so I don't know what he done. So they brought the chair and put his pants down, and he bent over the chair, and the commandant, you know, stood with the whip. So he takes a whip and smashes him on the bottom. When that You never believe it, but the shit shot out like from a volcano eruption. And it went all over his uniforms, his pants, his boots, freshly polished and everything. And he just stood there for a moment like, didn't know what to do, dropped his whip and just yelled, "Gott im Himmel!" and ran down the couldn't to get himself cleaned up. But of course you couldn't laugh. You couldn't laugh. Everybody stood there with serious faces, try to keep as serious as possible, because if you laughed you would be beaten up like you wouldn't believe. Well, anyway, from there I was sent to Auschwitz in the next transport. When we arrived to Auschwitz, we were bathed, shaved, head shaved, We lined up on the square over there.
Oh, yeah.
And the commandant had a talk to us, sort of like a commandant and adjutant, and the other SS officers were standing there behind him, like a welcome committee.
Yeah.
And he was telling that you are here because of the war, and the war was caused by the Jews. And then he said, "Are there any Jews among you? If yes, step out." Okay, about 12 people, maybe 15 people stand up. I don't know who was who, but they were immediately taken to the Straf company, the punishment company. Over there you could not survive. Maybe a day, maybe 2 days at the most.
Oh, geez.
That's it, they killed you.
And what about the patches?
Oh, the patches were triangular like that, and that
triangle.
was a red, meaning political, and the number underneath it.
So you had a red one, red triangle.
Yeah. Then there was pink, was homosexual, and violet was Bible for sure, Jehovah Witness.
What color was the Jews?
The Jews, the red and yellow. Star of David.
Oh yeah. Did they assign you a work detail or something like that?
Yes.
When you
I
got
was
there?
assigned to commando meant work detail, not like a commando in English. Commando Neubau, new buildings, because they were building buildings over there to house the new prisoners that were coming in. See, before the war, Auschwitz was a military barracks for one of the Polish mountain infantry was stationed there. So it was laid out very nicely, and we were building taller buildings. And then I got typhus. Typhus came from, instead of blankets, we were given Russian cavalry overcoats, very thick, very warm. The only problem was that it was full of lice.
Full of lice.
Yeah. Normally, you kill the lice by your fingernails over there. You put them there and you squeeze them, and you hear that.
Oh.
No, that little pop. That the blood would go all over your fingers. That was your blood that they saw.
Oh, jeez. Well, that's an interesting. Oh, his wife's glamour shot. There's the masters, huh?
Mm-hmm. Every Saturday they were choosing for the gas chamber from the camp, the week, what they call Körperschwache, the weak of body, those that just couldn't work anymore or anything. So they were rounded up. A truck would come made by Ford, the SS
it was
loud
made by
Ford trucks.
I'll be darned.
Anyway, and they were loaded on the truck and taken to the crematorium for the gas chamber. Anyway, I was caught and put on the truck. Everybody was screaming, yelling, didn't want to undress, and everything, just trying to get off the truck. They were trying to put them in, and they were trying to get off, and I jumped off the truck.
Yeah.
And I tried to run away, and I was caught right away and put back.
And you were naked?
No, not yet. Nobody wanted to undress.
Oh.
Hell no, we won't undress. And I was put back on the truck. And again, I went on my force, and between the legs of the others, I made an escape again. And this time they never caught me.
Oh.
And by next Saturday, I was already recovered enough.
Well, how did you escape and not be discovered again?
There were thousands of people surrounding it.
Oh, they were lined up, huh?
And the people, there were 15,000 people right then and then in the camp. And when that was happening, their friends that. Some people had friends that were not on the truck and they were trying to help.
Yeah.
You have no idea what it was.
So you jumped off and they helped you
you
disappear.
mix with the crowd and that's it.
Oh.
My friend Adam said, I wasn't assigned yet work detail.
So you stood all together and then you were,
Yeah.
they said stand way in the end.
you were lined up in tents, rows of tents,
Yeah.
and they were counting you, 1, 2, 3, and so on.
Yeah.
So if you move yourself to the end they always take it to the potato peeling department from there, and I'll be able to help you there with food. So I managed myself to the end of the thing, and would you believe it? That day they wouldn't take it to the potato peeling department. They would take it. Orders arrived from Berlin to hurry up and finish the crematoriums, and I was taken to the crematorium building detail. It wasn't functional yet. They were just building it. They were gassing in trucks at that time.
Oh, in the trucks. I didn't know that.
Exhaust. We were in the department that we used to make it,
So you made the plaster so they could
you
put it on the
got
walls?
the sand, and then you put the sacks of it wasn't cement, it was called wapno, whatever that is. It was like lime, and you mix it constantly till it's ready. When it's ready, they came with wheelbarrows and you just stir it. I was assigned to that one with another guy, a young Jewish boy like myself, the same age as me.
Yeah.
He was Jewish, his name was Isaac. And he was from a high school kid from Warsaw too. And we became very good friends because we had something in common. There was nothing to do most of the time because, we still did a couple of times and it's good for an hour.
So you had good duty there.
Yeah, good. So we just stood there and pretending that we're doing
something.
Yeah, and every now and then I said, well, let's go and get a rest, And I used to go to where the gas chamber was, into the gas chamber, and lay down there and go to sleep, take a nap for an hour, in the gas chamber.
Did you realize what they were going to be used for?
Well, of course, everybody knew it.
Well, I didn't know if it was a secret or something else, but you knew if you were going
everybody in the camp knew what it was and where it was and what it was for. There was no mystery about it. See, because they used to, the Auschwitz, that was in Birkenau, the Auschwitz itself had a very small chamber. They could gas few people, but not enough like they wanted to.
So the scientists were getting together all the time and said, we're going to build a bigger killing machine.
Oh, they were building 5 gas chambers and 5 crematoriums. I was working on the number 1.
Oh, geez.
But eventually they built, I wasn't there in Auschwitz anymore, but eventually they built 5 of them. A really mass production, like you wouldn't believe, of gassing people. I was, after the plastering was finished and they didn't need any more plaster, I was reassigned to a different commando. But Isaac stayed there, he was reassigned to the Leichen commando, which was those that worked in the gas chambers.
Ah.
Okay? And one night, by that time the crematorium was finished, and they were building number 2. He ran into a barrack, all excited. He says, "Guess whom they were gassing today?" He said a transport came from Russia, from East Front, full of SS that were invalids, from the hospital, and they were frostbite mostly.
Mostly frostbite?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like for example, nose was missing. He said one was missing, his whole cheek was missing, and you could see the teeth over there.
Oh, geez.
It's just like
Horrible
things like
looking,
that,
yeah.
Horrible. Frostbite, without fingers, with the
Toes and...
they were all like that, and they were shipping them back to the Reich, to Germany. And he said, "Well, before you go to Germany, we want to bathe you. You have to take a shower because you have to be clean. We don't want any Russian dirt in there."
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
Okay, so they put him in the gas chamber, and in that bathroom, it's
Yeah.
supposed to be a large room with showers. Just can you imagine in this country if the Marines gassed the infantry? My God, the army.
Or somebody that got
Something.
injured in
I mean, it's just
Afghanistan and came back.
unthinkable.
Yeah, I
It's
know.
unthinkable.
Yeah, it is.
Yet it happened there. I don't know whether it was there anymore like this, because I think they gassed Egypt too. We were on the right side of the street, and the left side was women's camp.
Yeah. I can imagine what happened over there.
Oh God, they were dying like flies. There was this famous SS woman. Her name was Irma Greze. She was a vicious schizophrenic, like you wouldn't believe.
Oh, really?
Torturing, beating the women, and this. There were people like that. I think it was Easter 42. We didn't go to work because it was Easter Day,
Oh, they honored Easter?
But the commandant said, well, they just standing there. Let's give them some sport. And the sport was that we were carrying, they were just building that road between the two camps. And there was a pile of dirt at the end, and a little pile of dirt over here. And we were supposed to carry this dirt in our caps from this pile and dumping over there, and then running back, getting more and dumping over there, and running back and forth with the dirt. Meanwhile, to encourage us to run faster, there were couples was standing with the knipples and by beating, encouraging you to run faster, right? Knipples were like a stick, like a baseball bat. Of course, they didn't play baseball there, but
No.
but it was used for beating.
You were supposed to beat the Jews when they were
Yeah.
running through that.
Yeah, and we just refused. They brought a pile of this knipples sticks and dropped it on the floor. We were supposed to pick it up, and nobody picked it up. Just stood there, and nobody picked it up. And the commandant just like us, just smiled and said, "So, the Polish Schwein will not beat the Jewish Schwein. Very well, then let the Jewish Schwein beat the Polish Schwein."
Oh, jeez.
And they made us run, and the Jews were supposed to beat us.
And they did.
Well, if they didn't beat them, do you know what would happen to them? They could put up their gun and shoot you right then and there
Oh, yeah.
for refusing an order. I got into trouble once in Auschwitz. But my friend Adam passed me a half a tablet of oleo, margarine.
Margarine, yeah.
Yeah, margarine. And it was kind of large, I didn't know I could put it in my pocket because it's thick. I put it beyond my belt over here. I was walking to my block from the kitchen, and run into a block Führer. Block Führer was an SS person in charge of the block that you were in. And he looks at me, he says, "Was hast du da? What do you have in there?" and I pull out and she says, "Where did you get it?" I says, "I stole it." I couldn't say very well that somebody gave it.
That
I
Adam
just
did
wasn't
that.
done. So I stole it. So what do we have here? A young thief. Huh? Okay, what's your number? I know it was right here. I wrote my number in his notebook. And next morning I was called on the Appellplatz to receive my sentence. And you put your hands back like this.
Yeah.
And they change you. They change you with the chain and they hang you on the post. And you hang there. If you got 2 hours, that was the very maximum. If you got 2 hours, you only hung for 1 hour, then you were released, and 2 weeks later you served the other hour. That was done because mostly the pain was such that you pass out. You know, if you pass out, you don't suffer, right?
Yeah.
So, which means that the 1 hour was without suffering. I still have some scars over here. I mean, they kind of disappeared now, but there were 2 or 3 scars from the chain. You know, I was very light, you know, and young,
Yeah.
and yet it cut through the skin. You know, when you hang like this. I tell you, pain was terrible, you know, for 2 weeks. But nothing was broken, nothing was dislodged, you know, everything was there. In early 43, they broke up Auschwitz. They broke up all, by that I mean all the old numbers. I was by then an old number.
Old number. Even though you were a young man, right?
Yeah, an old number. So they were sent to other camps.
Right.
Because they have found that the Poles in the workshops over there were making crude weapons, you know, pistols and this like that from pipe, you know, because they were machine shops, you know. So they decided to disperse of this thing. And I was sent from there to Neuengamme, concentration camp Neuengamme, which was just outside Hamburg in Germany. Well, as you know probably that in 1943, the American Air Force was built up sufficiently in England, and there was a raid on Hamburg, and Hamburg was just destroyed. You've never seen any destruction like that. And we were not bombed. The closed bomb to us fell probably about 500 yards from into the field from our camp, so we were okay.
So they didn't bomb you. They knew where the prisoners were, right?
No, we were kind of outside, you know. Did you bomb Hamburg, the main thing there? Anyway, it was burning. It was burning, nothing but smoke and that ash falling down on you. And at night it was beautiful. Nights were beautiful. We always watched it. You know, it was very heartening for us that finally they are getting it. That lasted about a week, that raid, non-stop, day and night.
Why didn't the people leave?
All our guards, SS guards, went to Hamburg and put what they call Postenkette, a chain of posts, you know, around, and prevented the people from leaving Hamburg and escaping the firestorm, you know, because Hitler said that jeder muss sterben an seinem Platz. Everybody must die on his place, in his post, you know.
Oh.
Because
Stand and fight?
No retreat, you know. If you escaped, that was a retreat.
Oh.
That was no retreat for them. So the SS actually were shooting on the people trying to escape from the fire. You know.
Their own people?
Their own people. Yeah. They asked for volunteers to go to Hamburg and get the bodies out because they were afraid, you know, the decaying and the
disease. Yeah.
So I wasn't gonna volunteer because I had a very good job. I was working for the clinker, the brick factory over there, you know, and I was appointed to be in charge of the Zulage. Zulage, in the afternoon we got a little 2 slices of bread, you know, and something in there in between. Sometimes leaving that job with foolishness. So when they ask, when we're lined up, and they ask for the volunteers, Austreten, step out. I wasn't Austreten
Not
at
gonna
all.
volunteer, huh?
And then all of a sudden, I shot out like from a cannon, like somebody kicked me in the back or anything. I don't know. I stepped out, and then I remember thinking, "My God, what have you? You couldn't take back. You couldn't go back. What have you done, you fool?"
But you went forward.
Yeah. That I went forward. So they took me to Hamburg.
What did you do, your job?
Oh, we were going from place to place, putting up the dead bodies. I remember in one place, the Luftschutzraum, that means the shelter, was in a church that was next to a canal. Hamburg has a lot of canals.
Right.
For barges to go, it's a commercial port. And there were about 80 people in their shelter there. And the bomb somehow hit the wall of the canal, and the water came in from the canal into the basement there. And it was boiling, from the incendiaries, the water was boiling.
Wow.
And the people boiled alive there.
My God.
Into a soup.
Like a soup?
And it was people's soup.
Oh, good God.
You take water and you take people and you boil them and you got soup. That you get chicken soup and you get people soup, right?
Yes, I guess.
And when we were there, the water was still warm. It wasn't hot, but it was still warm. And we were given a black rubber suits.
Well, how could you get the bodies out if they're down there?
Well, the bodies were swimming mostly
Floating on top?
on top, with the fat that's boiled out of them.
Ooh.
And it was like soup with a lot of fat in it, And you had to be very careful with the bodies, because if you grab them by the arm and pull them, you pull the arm out.
Ah.
It was so boiled, so well done.
Ah.
Boiled and over, must have been boiling for hours or maybe.
How could you get used to the smell?
Well,
That's-
what can you do? And when you lift them, you had to walk the stairs up. So when you're walking the stair up, the fat from the
Bodies.
water, the soup, would coalesce. It would just and leave. With every step that you made, there was a line of this
Fat.
white fat
Oh.
on the human fat.
No.
We were having a lunch break during the search for the bodies, and I sat down there having my lunch, some soup, and next to me there was 3 or 4 Germans, prisoners, but they were German, had a green winkle criminal.
Oh.
Okay, and they were sitting there. What the hell they doing over there? And they were taking out from the pocket human fingers, taking out the ring, and throwing the finger away,
Oh, gee. How gross.
and putting the rings in the pocket. One of them had a full pocket of fingers there.
That he'd already pulled off the dead bodies and put them in
Yeah.
his pocket.
The dead bodies were so badly cooked from the heat
Yeah.
that you can take a finger, just twist it, and it comes off.
Ooh.
I remember one shelter, air raid shelter. There were a lot of people dead there too. They were roasted, and all the fat from the body burned down on the floor, and the cement floor was covered about like 1.5 inches thick of fat. And I tripped, there was
Debris everywhere.
debris everywhere. And I tripped and went down and I hit with my face a dead body. And it smeared on my lips,
Huh? Ooh.
and there wasn't even any water to wash it off or anything.
That's terrible.
Yeah, so I tasted a little bit of human. So, you might say that one time was almost a cannibal.
Almost a cannibal.
Well, there was just a smear here, but I couldn't get it off. Just no water to wash or anything. When we left, I was transferred to another, what they call Baubrigade, building brigade, and we were sent to France, northern France,
Yeah.
to build fortifications over there by the, canal there.
Oh yeah.
For the invasion, only in the wrong place.
That's true.
I was building with a tunnel in the mountains. The tunnel, not the straight one, but the tunnel was curved like this. There were supposed to be long-range guns over there installed on railroad track that would shoot on England. And in case in case of air raid, they would back up into the mountains.
That's
they
right.
would come out again and shoot. That was in the village of Bergenès in northern France. I was there until after the invasion, when they were withdrawing. We had to march. There was no tracks or anything, or a railroad or anything. That was for the military. We had to march on foot until Belgium, to Bettine, I think it was, when we got the Pioneer train. And the Belgian partisans would try to liberate us, but unsuccessfully. They were firing shots. But the train had the quadruple 20 millimeter automatic cannons.
Geez.
And they
Yeah.
just massacred them.
They decimated them, I imagine.
Yeah, they couldn't do anything.
When did you get wounded? On your...
Oh, that was, we were being strafed by British planes when we were marching in France, on a highway. So when the strafing started, we just went to the ditches, and I was there in the ditch. I said, if I run over there quickly, I can hide behind the tree that will shelter me.
Yeah.
And I just was getting up to run when I was hit in here. Kaplank, And I looked down, there was all blood all over me and brains. Over here was that pinkish, whitish stuff,
Oh.
human brains. I says, my God, I bought it, right? And I remember lifting my left arm over here and looking for the hole in my head, but there was no hole. Everything was there. Nose was there, forehead was there, everything was there. It was hurting me here, but everything, I couldn't find a hole. And with that, I realized that it wasn't my brains, it was somebody else. The guy in front of me got it right, probably a 20 millimeter, and exploded. The head exploded, and his thing went. The only thing that I had cut was a little cut over here, from a tiny piece of bone
From
his skull.
From his skull.
Yeah. Now, if this hit me just a 3/4 of an inch lower, I would have lost an eye.
Yeah.
But over there, it just cut the skin and stuff.
But you could just feel the blood, huh?
Yeah, but the blood was coming, but
was
just,
minor.
that's nothing,
Yeah.
right? I got myself cleaned up. My friend died there,
Oh.
Stanley. He was hit there, terrible hit. He just died there. And there was an assessment that was hit too in the stomach, badly. The stomach was open, and his guts were coming out,
Yeah.
And right after the raid, because it didn't last longer, but the planes is only 1 minute
minutes,
and it's
yeah.
over. An army ambulance arrived, Wehrmacht, and they were picking up their own that were Wehrmacht, and they brought this SS on a stretcher, the SS man with the guts coming out, and the driver looked at him, says, "Kein Platz für SS." No room for SS, and slammed the door. And we had army guards there, and they were shot too. Together with
But they
SS.
didn't particularly like the SS, huh?
No, so this was a army ambulance, and they took their own. They refused to take the SS. So he died, I guess, because, you know, that's a serious wound.
Oh yeah, of course it is.
So we were taken back to Germany, and we're traveling to Germany, and nobody wanted us. You know, first they took us to Sachsenhausen, which is near Berlin. They didn't want us, refused to take us. So we were somewhere else. They refused to take us too.
Well, how many were you? How many people?
About 800.
Jeez.
And nobody wanted to take us. Finally, we went to Dora-Nordhausen, which belonged to Buchenwald camp, and they took us over there. Dora-Nordhausen is famous for the manufacture of the V2 rockets.
Yeah.
And then when we were finished here, we were moved somewhere else for the railroad spur,
Right.
about a mile away from the camp. And we were staying there. There was one barrack over there, and we were about 300 people, you know, so it was enough. It was all mud from the rain and cold, and rain would never stop. You know, in Europe you get a lot of rain. After a few weeks there, we were told out and line up outside the barrack, and a high-ranking SS officer comes in and looks at us, you know, the six of us. Then he points to me, he says, "Do, straight out. You come out." So I come out, and he says, "From now on, you'll be assigned to SS Führungsstab 2, one that cleans the office,
Oh,
office boy. And you are to report there first thing in the morning, and that's it. Next morning, I go to the gate there, and the gate in charge is Rottenführer Palko. And he says, "What are you doing here?" I says, "I was told by Sturmbannführer to report for duty." "No, you get out of here. You come out last." And pow, 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 knock me down. So I come about 10 o'clock. I report for duty. I was supposed to be there at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
I come 2 hours late. So he comes out to me and says, "What do you mean being so late? I told you specifically to be here at 8 o'clock. He says, "Well, Rottenführer Palko wouldn't let me out and beat me up." And he's look, I was swollen, by that time I was swollen for the beating.
yeah.
He says, he looked at me, "Okay, go to work." He went to his office, and I heard him pick up the phone, and I heard him yelling at the commandant,
Yeah.
in a high voice, and just yelling, just terrible. Next morning, Rottenführer Palko was nowhere to be found.
They shipped him out.
By the grapevine, I heard that he got a Stehbunker for 1 week and was transferred to the East Front.
To the Russian front?
And he was from the Ukraine, ethnic German.
Uh-oh.
If the Russians got him, they just shot him.
Probably.
After that, a friend of mine says, "You have to have long hair to be recognized at the gate, that you are somebody that of importance." He was working, that friend of mine was working in the administration, so he had access to typewriter, and he typed out the thing for me. He went to the commandant, the commandant had to sign, and I had the SS Alter Sturmführer, so Hessler, his name was Hessler, sign it, and that became legal then. And he brought it back when he gave it to me, and I had this, didn't have to have it shaved. I had just
Long
cut
hair.
like him. Yeah, like him.
Well,
And
and
start
you,
growing, it takes a little time.
and you
to
still
grow.
have that permit today.
I have the original. When the front was moving, we were evacuated to Bergen-Belsen. I had a friend, he was German, and he said that his sister was gonna hide us to the end of the war if we escaped.
Escaped, yeah.
Right? There was SS Panzerschule, SS School of Armor.
Yeah.
Over there.
With the tank division, yeah.
Yeah, outside the camp. So we were stationed that there was no barbed wire. There was just guards going all around with dog. So we were started running with students spotted and shots were fired and I was hit in the leg, left leg. I went down and it knocks you over, you think.
Yeah.
But if I stayed down, I would be dead for sure because
The dogs would find you and
so I got up, scrambled up and started running. My shoe filled up with blood, and every time I made a step, it made a sound,
Yeah.
clop, clop, clop,
Yeah.
and the blood was flowing over, and I was leaving a blood
trail, yeah.
trail there. About a block away, there was a pump house, and my friend ran over there ahead of me, and opened up the door for me, So I saw the door open. I ran in there into the pump house, and there was nothing to do. So I stood. There was pipes running up and down for something, big pipes like this. I remember the color. They were white, insulated. And I put myself between the pipes there and stood there, and where the two SS men ran in with the dog. And there was a trail of blood leading right to where I was standing. And they had a flashlight, and that was at night. And they shone this flashlight right over me, and they didn't see me, not a quiver of a hand, nothing. They just didn't see it. The strange thing was, they didn't see me, and the dog didn't smell me, didn't express any interest in me, nothing whatsoever, as if I wasn't there.
That's strange.
Strange, and there was this sound that came in me. I heard nothing but sound descended to me. It was a feeling like something took me over. All of a sudden I was powerful, knowledgeable. I knew it was like plugging into the knowledge of the universe. I knew that nothing was going to happen to me because I was a part of some kind of a machine. I was a little clog. If that clog was destroyed, the whole machine would stop. Therefore, I couldn't be destroyed.
You think it
Nothing.
was a power somewhere up above, or?
It's like a force.
Yeah.
I was strong. I was just feeling of strength, and just like you could do anything, could walk on water if necessary, And they didn't see me. Well, the friend of mine left the door open on the other end for me to run through.
Yeah.
And they saw the door open, run over there after him, and they were gone and the sound was gone. So I left the pump house and ran across. There was a forest over there to hide in the forest. And I was walking in the forest for some time. I came across the brook, a stream, just no deeper than this, maybe up to your knees at the deepest part of it.
Yeah.
Guess what happened? That cold water stopped the bleeding. When I came out of the stream, I wasn't bleeding anymore. It
That saved your life, maybe.
Yeah, maybe because you can bleed.
Bleed to death.
At any
yeah.
rate, there was no bleeding anymore. So I was walking in the forest there. I came all of a sudden, like a clearing in the wood. There was several burnout tanks standing over there, another armor. I went to some bunker looking for something. There was nothing but trash and some dirty, torn uniform. I went to the uniforms, and guess what I found? I found a Navy uniform that was reasonably clean.
Oh.
And my God, it was just my size. I took off my striped suit and I bundled up underneath there with the trash, and I put the Navy uniform on, the Germany Navy uniform. This is me over here. Over here, this is me.
Oh,
In
that
a
uniform?
German Navy uniform when I escaped, from.
Ah, yeah. Very distinguished.
Well, it saved my life.
Yeah, I know it did.
If I didn't find this uniform, I would have been caught. I can swear that I would have been caught. I was still walking around the forest, and I came out of the forest, and there was a railroad track. And ahead, about a mile ahead, there was a train standing there that was just strafed by planes. You know, the steam was still rising from the locomotive.
So it was totally
the train was
disabled, huh?
burning.
Yeah.
The train was burning, was bombed and strafed and whatever. The planes were nowhere there, they was already gone. But the train was there, and lots of people wounded, you know, laying about. They were just putting them out of the wagons, you know, and laying them out, those who were dead or those
Wounded badly.
wounded,
Yeah.
badly bleeding. So I came over there, and I mixed up with the wounded, and just ahead was a station there. I don't even know what the name of the station was, but everybody was going to the station, so I went with them.
You just walked,
Yeah.
merged with the crowd, in other
Yeah, I
words. and
emerged
just-
with the crowd of wounded people.
Yeah.
You know, and they bandaged my leg. Papers. The police with those soldiers, the military police there, says no papers. Everything is burned down, bombed out. Oh,
Yeah.
they shook their head. They understood because every other, but the same thing happened to everybody else. Says, where are you going? I said, I'm going to Cuxhaven.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Says, there was another train standing there. He said, you take that train and it will take you to Hamburg. And when you get to Hamburg, you transfer to train that will take you to Cuxhaven.
Yeah.
But just across the tracks from that train was another train going the other way, south. This train was going north. I didn't want to go north.
No, that was back to Germany, right?
When they weren't looking, I quickly jumped off and ran to the other train and put myself over there into the train. And that train went south. I don't know how far south I went, because, you know, disoriented, didn't know where I
Yeah.
was. But it was slowing down for a station. I knew there'll be police there and they will be asking me questions. I'm
Questions.
going in the wrong direction. You know, towards the front. So I jumped off and just went away from the truck. And I was just going south, because the front was in the south. That's when the front rolled over.
Ah,
And I found myself in the French zone of occupation. You know, there were
Yeah.
zones, you know, British, American, and then the French too. French were there. So I went to the French commandant and I said I wanted to go to Paris, that my ancestor was a general, the brigade, you know, in the Grand Armée de Napoleon. You know, they were very impressed. He says, yes, you can. I wanted to go to Paris. Maybe I had relatives there.
you speak French, or did
Oh
you?
yes,
at
I
the time?
speak French because I had in high school, so
Yeah.
there was no problem in communication. I spoke French. So they, yes, you can go to Paris. They put me on a train to Paris, and it took a long time to get to Paris because the bridges were blown,
Yeah.
you know, and it had to make detours all the time. When I got to Paris, I got myself a little room on the 5th floor and no lift, no elevator. But downstairs was a bar, and the Americans were making all kinds of noise there with the girls all night.
Oh,
Anyway, I was walking around Paris, and there was some kind of barracks from the Napoleon time, you know. And as I came closer, there was a British soldier standing over there at the guard, you know, by the gate. I didn't pay any attention because what the hell, what the British got to do with me, right?
that's right.
So, but as I kept closer, I saw something strange. The guard booth was painted in red and white, which is the Polish stripe, you know,
Yeah.
like you have red, white, and blue. The Polish have just red and white.
Right.
And the guard, you know, had Poland over here sewn on his uniform, you know.
So he had a Polish patch right there, huh?
Yeah.
I'll be there.
And behind him there was a big poster, and the poster says in Polish, for victory and for glory and to avenge Warsaw. Polish Army Recruiting Center. So you might say that the Polish lightning has struck me.
That's true.
See, it's complete with bayonet. That's the way we used to call the toothpick, because that's all it was good for.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
That's issue of 1944. I was replacement for a machine gunner on a Bren gun carrier. Okay, it was very fast and was low profile. So if there was any shooting, you went to a ditch and they couldn't hit you. And I was assigned as a machine gunner. The machine gunner was killed before me that was there.
So you were a prisoner of war, and then you go back into Germany and rout out the Germans, right? And make them prisoners. So you go into these towns and you tell them, you know...
Hände hoch, raustritt mit Hände hoch. Ha!
Hands above
I
your
tell
head.
you what happened. That was near Wilhelmshaven. We gave orders to come out with hands out. Okay, they come out, maybe like 2,000 of them, you know. And they walk to our lines, you know. And all of a sudden they stop. Our orders were very clear. If the prisoners, you know, try to go back, you are to shoot. Shoot to kill. Because if you don't, they only regroup and come back on you.
Yeah,
you know?
that's true.
So the orders were very clear, shoot.
Oh, yeah.
So they stopped. We didn't know. So repeat the order, come back or we'll shoot. Come here, you know. So they quietly move a little bit forward, you know, standing with legs together like this, you know, clamping his legs together. So we never saw anything like it. You know, we had surrendered before, but not like that.
Yeah.
It was something new. So maybe it's something different.
Maybe they're hiding
maybe
something.
a hand grenade or
Oh, yeah, maybe.
God knows what. So what is this here with you? Oh, he said, we were told not to surrender to the Poles because the Poles cut you privates out.
Oh, so they got their head like that.
So they had tried to hold on to it for as long as possible.
So how long did you do that before the war was completely over?
Maybe another 2 weeks.
That was it?
And the war ended.
And then you wanted to go back to Poland, but they wouldn't let you.
No, we couldn't. The Russians were there.
Oh.
The point was, you know, that was end of the war. The Russians were there.
Oh, that's right. They took
and
over.
they had the communist
Yeah, they took it over.
government there, and they were arresting and killing everybody who could find that was anti-communist, you know.
So what did you do next?
Yeah, I went back to France to school.
Yeah.
I was, after the war ended, you know, I was brought down to the headquarters. I see that you have 1.5 years of a high school in Mexico. I said, yes, sir. You go there and you complete your high school in 1 year or else, my friend.
Oh, yeah?
You know, that's an order, and you know.
They didn't take into account that you were 4 years in a German concentration camp, and that was a pretty good education at that.
No, but they went, but what they had.
Yeah, I know.
In high school in Poland. I was working at that time at the House of Commons. You know, during the Blitz, it was bombed and it collapsed totally. You know, where the Big Ben is, the House of Parliament. So I was working there, rebuilding it. Down the street, down the corridor, there it was blocked off, and they hung things there because it was dusty. Was Churchill's office there, and he wasn't the prime minister by then, but he was still a member of the parliament. And every now and then he would come over there to sit for a while and see what's the progress of the building is,
Yeah.
you know. And he liked to have a scotch and soda when he was there.
He's famous for that.
Yeah. And so he had the bottle of whiskey over there, and soda came in siphons, you know.
Oh yeah, the spritzer bottle.
Yeah. And I used to sneak over there every now and then and have half a glass of soda. He would come and the soda would be almost gone. And, you know, who drank it? Oh, the Mad Paul did it. The Mad Paul drank it.
The Mad Pole.
Yeah, he used to call me the Mad Paul. So I says, well, I didn't touch the whiskey, just a little soda. I mean, what's the problem?
So what did he tell you?
Oh, he told me that you should go to America because this country is not big enough for you.
Hey, Lucille Ball and Ricky Ricardo.
Yeah.
There you go.
That was Chicago days, right?
That was.
Yeah. That's when he was in Chicago.
This is mine, and this goes back to 1100,
1100. Wow.
to the Battle of the Hounds Field of Hounds. You know, it was between the Poles and the Saxons.
So
And-
you came from royalty?
Yeah, because the mother of King Wenceslas was of my family. She was Dragomir, like
I'll
me.
be darned.
So that's how the crown got in there.
So you're a prince.
It's ducally crowned.
Oh, Duke.
What else could you expect? I mean,
I have to bow to you now.
no, you do the curtsy. I'm building a boat. When it's ready, I'm gonna sail away.
Very nice.